It's been 2 years since the release of the film The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan, a film that brought up once again the idea of yellowface, the idea that it's okay for white actors to portray Asian roles instead of Asian actors. It's been 1 year since I've been in contact with the creator of the film Yellowface, a film that talks about this very idea. Today, we are here not to dwell on history, but to discuss its relevance in today's world. So I'm sitting here with Han Tang, a filmmaker, an actor, and most of all, an activist. Now, before we delve into your body of work, let's talk a little bit about how you got started and why you decided to enter this field.
My mom's a movie director, and so is my grandfather back in China. I think I always had an interest in filmmaking, well, acting as well. I just, I don't know, I feel like I want to do something creative, so. I started off using my friends who I know are good actors, and I started off creating stories that I think, that they could play and it would be interesting for them. And then next thing I know, I had a classmate in college that passed away, and this is after New York Film Academy, and I haven't touched my camera for a long time, and for whatever reason, he was so close to me and he died of a drunk driving. I feel the need to pick up my camera again. And I never finished that project. I think it's because it was so close to my heart.
Are your films personal to you?
So far, yes. So far, yes. And including, the little scripts that I work on. Because some people might call me naive, but I do think media, it's a powerful medium. It really could make a social impact. I remember the films that I watched that changed my life and make me look at the world differently and make me a different person. And I think that's what I want to do. And I think, to answer your first question, that's why I think I want to be in this field.
Let's talk about making an impact. One type of film that makes a very large impact is documentaries, because people take it as fact. It's you presenting the facts to the audience as a filmmaker. Let's talk about your documentary, Yellowface. Tell me more about that.
Yellowface, I didn't decide to make a documentary and did Yellowface. That's not what happened. If that's what happened, I would have, applied for a grant and, contact more people and to help me out. What started off Yellowface was that I literally just finished watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, and I was in love with it. And then I know it's been out, but I just haven't seen it up until that point. I literally watched 3 seasons back to back, at nights without sleeping. And then I found out about the casting. And I was so angry and I wanted to do something. And when I realized Race Bending's doing a protest, I saw it on their website. I guess, I don't know, it's instinct. I just grabbed my camera and I just went. We went through a lot of difficulty because, we didn't prepare. Like, if you're gonna shoot a documentary, there's so many things that you need to do ahead of time, and we didn't do that. And after that, after I started, I went to the original protest in Philadelphia, right when they were doing the casting. I got a teaching job, like a part-time teaching job, and I was teaching Chinese to kids. And I was watching how, I didn't intentionally brought it up in front of them, and my kids were aged 10 to 14. And they brought it up in the classroom. And I think that really kept me going, because as a teacher, I could see how that was affecting them.
A lot of people just said, well, I don't see the problem. What's the problem?
See, shockingly, the adults are the ones like, what's the problem? When, at least for my kids, for my students, and I have a small group of students aged 10 to 14, they understood the problem right away. They was during a break when it first come up, and they were talking to each other about it. I don't know, I think there are kids out there that didn't understand what's going on, what's being done to them. But I think for my kids, they understood perfectly what's going on. And yeah, and that's what made me feel like I really have to do something about it.
So let's back up a little bit for our audience who may not be familiar with Avatar or
Yeah.
with the live action movie. So Avatar is an animated series on Nickelodeon that has all Asian characters. It's based in an Asian universe with
Yeah.
Asian writing, Asian cultures, Asian costumes.
Yeah.
And then M. Night Shyamalan goes to make a live action movie.
An Asian director.
Asian director, no less. And 3 out of the 4 main characters are Caucasian.
Yeah.
And there is 1 South Asian.
Yeah.
And then later on, they casted Asians as minor characters in the background. But all the main roles were taken by people that were not Asian, which is what the show was based on.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, you know, it's just fairness. I mean, if someone's good for the role, they should get it. Why should they
Right.
have to be Asian? So what
Right.
do you say to that?
Obviously, we come across a lot of people saying that. And I think the truth of the matter is that if they really wanted Asian, they could have found it. And I think it's a way Hollywood's been using it as a reason why they don't cast Asian actors or before our time, African American actors or Hispanic actors, or you know, in the role that was originally written to be or based on real people that were that ethnicity. I think the truth is it's not about whether or not there are people talented enough out there to do it. If they wanted to find that person, they could. That's a very easy way to, it's like a cop-out. I think the real issue is that it's money. It's because 75% of this country are white, and movie making, it's about making money. Some people will even argue till today, yes, you have Denzel, you have Will Smith, but it's still a struggle for African American. And so this practice of using Caucasian actors to replace, you know, actors of other ethnicity have a long history of it. You know, to say that it's because there's the best actor get the job. If you don't even audition the actors that are of that particular ethnicity, how do you know whether or not that they could do it? A lot of times, you know, now there's union rules from SAG, AFTRA, from Equity, that you have to see number of minority actors, you know. And I think a lot of studios, they just literally call people in just so they could check them off the list.
Do you think that in reality, Asian actors are marketable to the mainstream American?
I do, because I think I know enough, maybe not in our generation, maybe, but I'm hoping in the next generation that things will change in terms of what the mainstream media wants to see. You know, since now we have a black president, got reelected. Honestly, I don't see why not. I mean, I say that maybe not in our generation because of all the odds that we're going against. But in terms of talent-wise, why not? It's a human story.
I went to a lot of plays, you know, every local play I could think of that was within reach. And I noticed they did not even write roles for Asian actors. So if they don't write role for Asian actors, they don't cast Asian actors. If they don't cast Asian actors, they say, well, that's because we don't have roles for them. And then they continue to not write roles for them. So how do you think we can break that cycle?
I think, first of all, Asian American playwrights, people who work in this industry, besides just actors themselves, need to keep trucking. I think it takes our effort as a community to be more creative ourselves, and also when opportunity come up and stand our ground and say no, you know, I'm not going to change the ethnicity of my characters, because it happened a lot. It really does. I mean, the stories, so many stories I heard, like people was like being approached and saying, we will buy this script from you, and you are steps away from getting millions of dollars, and all you need to do is to change the ethnicity. And if you are a writer who need to make a living and want to see your script made, I mean, how do you make that decision? So I don't want to put any blames on anyone, because it's tough. But I do think it takes us to be more creative and be more active. That's one thing. And I also think that our community, whether or not you're in the entertainment business, you know, just doesn't matter which field you work in, should get together, and when something happened, like we know there's a character that's supposed to be Asian and got turned white, we should say something about it. We should, hurt them at the box office. Don't go see it. Don't go support it. It is important.
I've seen that, the demographics have changed a little bit too on TV. I see Asians in commercials more.
Yeah.
I see Asians on television shows like Nikita, like Sullivan and Sons. I don't watch it carefully enough to know how they're being represented, but presence is there and it's growing. So do you think that there's hope for, Asian representation in the media? Is it getting better?
I think there's hope. I think Asian American actors are also running against something that, like, we talk about whether they're represented in the right light. The actor from Hangover. Me and my husband, we talked about him all the time, because I honestly think he's a really good actor. And I know there are many people in the Asian American community have an issue with the roles he portrayed, and I understand that. That's a stereotype, and it doesn't help our cause. But at the same time, that he looked the way he does. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If he is in Asia and he's acting, what anyone else would say would just be like, he's a really talented actor. In terms of people who are in front of the camera, I think we always have to be aware of what we're doing, and it's important to always have that intention, no matter how the script is written, how the lines are written, to play the layer that's underneath it.
But will Asian American actors get that chance?
Avatar, that last Airbender, is not about all white people. It's mostly Asian people. 12 to 15-year-old male Caucasian. But it says, or any other ethnicity. You could be white or anybody. That's white or anybody. Yes, that works.
I think it's a shame that Hollywood doesn't have more faith in the American people, especially now that they're having these films come out and they don't have enough faith that, hey, if all the actors are unknown Asian actors, that people wouldn't come out and see it.
From the beginning of film history, Asian American actors have proven that they can perform in a variety of roles. And yet, there is concurrently yellowface, the practice of white actors taping up their eyelids to pose as Asians in Asian roles. So, the question of the century is, why is there still a need for this conversation? And when will it end?